Occupy Wall Street is a movement that was started on September 17, 2011 in Liberty Square, which is located in Manhattan's financial district. These are nonviolent protests that are aimed on changing the way that our money is distributed. The Occupy Wall Street movement is also aimed at fighting back at the major corporations and also Wall Street for putting the United States in one of the greatest recessions in years. The goals of these movements are to get better jobs, have an equal distribution of income, and also to have a reduction of the influence of corporations on the government. This movement has spread to over 100 cities in the United States and has spread to over 1,500 cities worldwide.
Good evening, I'm Chad Leonard.
And I'm Ricky Chambers with The Daily Show.
Today, our segment will be on Occupy Wall Street. Now, Ricky, what's your opinion on Occupy Wall Street?
Well, I think it's good for the people to get out there and start protesting.
You know, I have a completely different view. You know, people just need to go and get some jobs. They're complaining, they're not doing anything, they're never going to be heard, so, you know.
They're eventually getting heard. I mean, look at when it started. It was all over the news.
Yeah.
Occupy this, occupy that.
It's not on the news anymore, is it?
Well, that's because their big business is afraid it's going to stop something.
No, it's not going to stop anything. It's dying down, Ricky. That's why it's not on, you know, the news anymore, so.
We've started protests all over the world. Like, over in Europe, they're starting to occupy.
1,500 cities. But you know what? Those 1,500 cities getting shut down. No more
Really?
Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, the only time the police come in and stop stuff is when it starts to get violent. It's the only time.
Sometimes it's not even violent. Sometimes you stupid hippies are just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but I mean, you gotta think. Our goals are pretty good. 99%.
You have a few too many goals. You gotta narrow them down. You gotta maybe find a leader. Your areas are too broad. You're not getting your point across.
That's part of I will agree with you on that. We do need to kind of narrow our goals down, take it one step at a time. That's one of our flaws that we have at the moment. Which I probably shouldn't have told you that, but anyways.
You guys should also find a leader. That's one thing that you're really lacking. If you don't have a leader, you're all just gonna jumble around and hope everything works out.
Yeah, that is bad, but it is a group run by the people, for the people, which is what our government should be.
Oh, it is. It is.
No, it's influenced by big business.
Well, that may be true, but big business is all the money. So, what are you going to do?
So you're saying the more wealth you have, the more power you get?
Exactly.
So then what happens to our motto? Run for the people, by the people.
It is the
for
people.
the good of the people.
Oh, it is. Just the more expensive people.
So then why do you have all these people protesting? Occupy across the nation.
I mean, I do agree why a few people are occupying, you know, but I mean, some people they didn't even graduate high school and they're down there.
So then you do agree with what we're protesting for. You do agree that it should change.
A very small amount. You know, the wealth should be a little more distributed, like evenly. But besides that, that's all.
Have you ever heard the motto? The richer are getting richer, and the poor are getting more poor.
No.
That's very true in this fact.
Thank you. Fun fact, man.
Yeah.
Please join us next week for a segment on sports.
Bam! Sir, what are your opinions on the Occupy Wall Street movement?
I think it is an essential part of what it means to be an American.
Why do you think that?
Is it not our right to protest? Right? That's built in.
Yeah, true. Do you think the punishment for protesting is fair?
I think violent protest is always questionable, but I think in the case of a peaceful demonstration, the use of force is always questionable.
You think it's okay for the police to take them off the streets once they get to the point where it needs to be taken?
No. I mean, if it becomes violent, perhaps, but I don't think unnecessary violence against protesters by the police force is necessary.
Do you think the protesters are going to get anywhere, and are their goals too radical?
I think they're getting somewhere in that we're talking about them right now. I that's an essential part of what they're working for. And I think it's really important that we continue to talk about and think about what is the purpose of protests, where does protest fit into our system, and how much credit do we give to it. It's sort of one of those touchy questions.
Do you think anyone is even listening to the protesters, like big business and some of the other people, other classes?
I think they are aware of their existence. I think they're probably a nuisance. I think it's unfortunate that they're perhaps not being heard as much as they want to, but if they continue, perhaps then people will have to take notice. I mean, it's still a relatively young protest, right?
Yep.
So sometimes it takes years to affect any kind of change. And if they continue, maybe.
You think media has a big part in what the public knows about their protesters?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've actually walked through one of the protest campsites. Yeah, I think we're not hearing the whole story.
Do you think the protesters should kind of go more violent at some time to get more attention for the
I don't think so. No.
Do you think that would cause a lot of problems in the future for the group?
Yeah. I think if they turn to violence, then that will be used to discredit them.
And do you think they have too many goals and issues that they go for? Like, should they kind of focus in on one of them?
I think specificity is probably would be to their benefit to choose something to work toward.
And do you think they should, at some point, establish a leader? For their movement, their group.
Well, effective leadership is important. But who?
Because as it stands now, there is no leader.
It is a movement of the people. Finding somebody worthy enough to be that voice is going to be the challenge. So I think perhaps effective leadership would be a good thing, but it's such a widespread movement, right, that creating national leadership is going to be a challenge. But it might work.
So you are for a leader, instead of just a kind of a broad group of people.
Sure, someone to sort of focus it in and maybe unite the different pieces.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Now, sir, what are your opinions on the Occupy Wall Street movement?
Well, I think some of the things that they're doing down there are a little hypocritical. They're sitting outside asking for, the government to pretty much hand out money, but none of them have jobs. Instead, they're going there and demanding, oh, well, this needs to stop because you guys have money and we don't. Well, a lot of them could be going out there and getting jobs, but they complain about people who worked for their jobs. They say, well, this is the big businessman and he, has all this money. But you know how he got there? He worked to get up to his position. Worked. Didn't sit there, having hippie circles saying, I want this protest to continue. And, it's just, quite frankly, just uncivilized a little bit. I mean, standing all around these buildings, yelling every day with these signs, holding them up. Damn.
This minimum wage is not sustainable for a single mother to hold a kid and have a car at the same time.
And do you think the punishment for protesting is fair?
Well, what are the crimes for protesting?
Oh, well, sometimes they've been arrested for being near the presence of, like protesting around a building that, the president is in or some other high figure.
Well, are they being disruptive?
Yes.
I don't know, depending on what they're doing. I mean, if they're sitting there throwing rocks at the president as he walks by, sure, get arrested. But if they're just civilly sitting there trying to get answers and maybe, not causing a gigantic riot in a mosh pit of people, then no, they shouldn't be punished for it.
And do you think that the protesters are going to get anywhere, and are their goals too radical?
No, they're getting nowhere. They're just standing outside waving flags around and, their little signs and picking signs and making their hippie circles and little bracelets and playing guitars and singing songs and making love under
Well-
the moon and their little shag bands and everything.
Well, anyways, do you think their goals are too radical?
Maybe, if they did it a little bit more like, start sending, letters to people and build it up instead of just kind of running over and causing a huge commotion in the ocean.
Okay. Now, do you think that anyone is listening to the protesters anymore?
Only some people. Other people don't care.
And does the media play a role in what we see?
Not anymore. I don't really see it on the news that much. Used to, but then they, they stopped.
So it does play a role. Like they're not showing it because they don't want us to see it anymore.
They don't show it. Nobody cares anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like that old news, like back in 19 whatever when the TV came out. They don't show any new advertisements for that anymore because nobody really cares. Everybody has TVs now. First man on the moon.
Do you agree with the way they're doing their protests?
No, they could, calm it down a little bit and not cause so much commotion in the ocean.
Oh, and should the protesters go to more violent protests to attract more attention?
No.
No.
That'd be weird. Let's just beat the crap out of some random person because, we want them to be serious now.
And do you think the Occupy Wall Street movement has too many goals?
I don't know. What are their goals? Like 1 or 2?
Oh, they have multiple goals.
Oh, so that's like 3.
Yeah, they have 3 to 4.
3 to 4. I don't know.
Maybe
That seems a little
even
radical.
more than that.
That seems radical, Chad.
And do you think they should take it more like one step at a time?
1 step at a time sounds deliciously good.
All right.
Right.
Thank you, AJ.
Welcome, Chad. Cameraman Ricky.